Hey, everybody, how's it going? That was a weird way to start off. I don't know what happened with my ability to talk just then. But hey, how's it going? This is Mike, the host for Professional Dependa. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. If you're on YouTube and Spotify watching the videos, thank you so much. I truly appreciate you. If you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe so you can see all the stuff that we've got going on, all the different shorts, all the other longer format videos that I do. Some of them are really informative. Some of them are just goofy. If you're on the podcast and you haven't had a chance to check out my YouTube channel, I recommend it. Why? Because some of them, again, I do daily shorts that are just kind of silly sometimes, but some of the longer format stuff is really cool, and I think it works better on the video than it would just on the podcast. One of the last videos that I did was actually with my daughter, my oldest daughter, and what we did was we did a video about the animal shelter we volunteer at and why it's important, gave some statistics, showed some videos of the animals, and just had a good time talking about animals and adoption stuff. We have 3 pets ourselves, and all of them are shelter pets. So it's something that we're pretty passionate about. Anyway, this week's episode of the Professional Dependa is about being a stay-at-home dad. Now, before moms, if you're listening, before you start turning it off, look, I'm going to talk about being a stay-at-home dad, but a lot of the stuff I'm going to be talking about is 100% relatable to being a stay-at-home mother or just a stay-at-home parent. So you can interchange dad with parent or whatever you want to throw in there. It's all applicable. I'm simply going to talk about it from my point of view, being a stay-at-home dad. So, being a stay-at-home dad, this is my 3rd time to be a stay-at-home parent. Whenever we left Louisiana to go to Maryland, we knew we were only going to be there for a year. So there was no point to getting a job for a year, in my opinion, with 2 kids that were under, like my oldest had just turned 2 when we got there. So, and then my youngest was not even a year old yet. So there was really no point for kids to have kids that little and have them in full-time daycare. Any job I would have been able to get would have just been working to cover the cost of daycare. So there was almost no point to that at all, in my opinion. And my wife was in school full time, so we did a lot of things money wise to cut down our expenses as far as we can. That's when we first started. That's when we cut cable and all that other fun stuff. We had internet and we had Netflix, and so that's basically. I guess we were early adopters to cord cutting, because that became a thing a few years ago. So we stopped. We just streamed everything, and we've been streaming everything ever since. But so we did that. So that was my first time to be a stay-at-home parent. That was a really hard transition for me, y'all. At the time, what year was that? I was 30 something. But you understand, I have been working, making money at a thing since I was 15. So to go from working all the time, sometimes working 2 and 3 jobs, to go from working all the time to being a stay-at-home parent, that was a huge transition for me, and I struggled a lot. I knew that what I was doing was helpful. I knew that taking care of the kids and all that stuff was beneficial to my wife. That whenever she came home, she didn't have to worry about anything. Everything was already done. The kids were taken care of. The house was in order. And she could just focus on school because it was a very intense program that she was in. She got a full-on master's degree in 10 months. It was something crazy. There was a lot. The way they broke it down, I don't know. She can explain it a lot better than I can, but it was super intense, and I took care of everything else. Now, the things that I did there to stop me from just absolutely going insane, I got back with my triathlon coach, and I trained for the Eagleman Half Ironman that was in Chesapeake Bay, Maryland. So I trained. That's all I did. That's really the only thing that I did for me was I trained hardcore for that triathlon. Whenever we got to Maryland, I was the heaviest I'd ever been. I was over 300 pounds and was super unhappy. This is not a weight loss episode. This is just me. I was super unhappy. I was trying to lose the weight myself, and I wasn't disciplined enough. So I contacted my old triathlon coach, Will, and I was like, "Hey, Will, He's still a triathlon coach with Fourth Dimension Fitness. He is phenomenal, one of my favorite people on the planet. I was like, hey, what I'm doing isn't working. Can I come back and work with you again remotely? And he, of course, he said absolutely. And what we started doing was he would send me all of my workouts, but I had him do everything. He was doing my strength training, my swim, bike, run training. He was doing all of it. So I followed his plan the whole time. Ended up losing like 70 some odd pounds. I went from 300 plus to 233. I was a cardio king though, so I was only 20 pounds or 17 pounds lighter than I am right now, but I looked skinny. But I was like skinny fat because I was still, because it was, anyway, I didn't have any, like no muscle definition at all. Anyway, I digress. But that was one of the things that I had to do for me. I had to have something that was not for the kids, that was for me, that I could focus on. So for me, that was training. Another thing that we did after we got there, when we quickly realized that I was going to slowly go crazy if I was just taking care of the kids all the time. Because remember, my kids were little and I was with them all day, every day. But there was a local church that did they called it Mother's Day Out because I think I was the only guy dropping off his kids. And they started doing, I don't remember if it was once a week or once a month. I want to say it was once a week, but it was literally like 3 hours during the day, maybe 4 hours, whatever it was. It wasn't very long, but it was enough. So what I would do a lot of times is I would go drop them off with the Mother's Day Out thing, and I would either go run errands, which I found out really quickly I could get a whole bunch of stuff done in the length of time they were there. I could knock out like 7 different errands just with them being there. Or I'd go ride my bike, or I'd go run, or whatever. But I would go do something for myself, and that was super important. And that's something I recommend now, even as a stay-at-home parent now. Find something to do for yourself that's not for the kids, or for your spouse, for that matter. But anyway, so as I was saying, that was a huge transition for me. That was my first time being a stay-at-home parent. We left Maryland, got to Alaska. I got a job pretty quickly. I got a job selling cars, which honestly I enjoyed. I love cars. I'm a gearhead. I love cars. So selling cars, and at the time, I was working for a Toyota place, and I love Toyotas. Tundra's one of my favorite trucks of all time until I got this F-250. This F-250's baller because I freaking love it. Then I got a job on base, so I wasn't a stay-at-home dad for long there. Became a stay-at-home dad again for a little bit in Arkansas. Got a part-time job working at the community center as a weight room attendant. So I told everybody I was a professional towel folder, because that's really all I do is wipe down equipment and fold towels. But then when we moved here, when we got to Georgia, I was a stay-at-home. I transitioned back to being a stay-at-home dad because the job market here is rough. I know it's rough everywhere, especially like after through COVID, and now the job market's just insane. It took me 18 months to find a job here. 18 months. Had a job for less than a year, and I've been unemployed ever since. That has been the time that we moved here. I really thought that it wouldn't be that difficult to find a job. And this is not going to be a podcast about employment, but I seriously have everything that they tell spouses to get. I've got a degree. I've got 3 of them, actually. So I've got a degree, had a security clearance. I think it's still current, whatever. I did all the things that they tell you. Oh, if you do this stuff, I used a resume writing service that the DoD recommends, or I don't think technically the DoD doesn't recommend them, because I don't think they do that. But, I used one of the either Hiring Our Heroes or Hire Heroes, one of them, to help me write my resume. I did all the things they tell you to do. It still took me 18 months to find a job. It's crazy. But anyway, so that was honestly a harder transition for me, because I remember my wife was deployed the first time after we got here, and I literally was breaking down on the phone with her, which I felt like a punk for doing, because I was crying because I couldn't find a job. But I have plaque psoriasis on my elbows and stuff, and I'm taking medicine for it. So I was like, you know what, I can go donate plasma to help my family. I can, because they were really super short on plasma, and they were offering like $1,500 if you donated 4 times in a month. And I was like, yeah, I can go do that. And I got denied to donate plasma because of the medicine that I take for my psoriasis. So between that and then not being able to find a job, I was just absolutely heartbroken. Like, I felt defeated and crushed. And so I was on the phone with her, and I was, sitting there freaking crying, talking about, why, what's wrong with me that I can't get a job, that I can't even donate plasma to, provide for my family. I was low, y'all. I was low. But started working through it and realizing that I was focused on the wrong thing. And this was hard. This was a really hard mindset shift for me. I'm not sitting here saying that I'm like the guru or whatever. This was a very difficult time for me personally. So I started realizing that as a stay-at-home parent, and if you want to break this down for yourself, like, do this if you ever start thinking that you're not providing for your family. So look at how much childcare costs. Look at, how much, if you were working and one of your kids got sick and had to leave school, how get that going again? Ugh. I thought I had figured out why the GoPro was shutting off. I thought if I left the little preview thing going on my phone that it wouldn't cut off like that, but I don't know. And I know y'all on the podcast get tired of hearing me complain about the GoPro, but it's what I got. It's the only camera I've got. So such is life. You're all stuck with it. Anyway, the volunteering at the animal shelter is a lot of fun. Super rewarding. You get to know these different animals. You get to kind of know the personalities, and then week to week you get to kind of see, they get to know you. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. There's other places that you can volunteer. You can volunteer on base. If you're Air Force, you got the Airman's Attic. I'm sure they have stuff, on the other military installations that is similar. But I can only talk about Air Force because that's what I know. I don't know if I'd make it through life without caffeine. I've got a buddy that quit drinking caffeine over a year ago. I don't know. He's not human. He's really not. So, you can volunteer if that's where your heart lies. Or you can just find a craft, find a hobby. I've done all of it. I've got the sewing machine. I've got a vinyl cutter. Every once in a while I'll make shirts for my kids. I was doing I started a business. I was doing dog bandanas and leashes and stuff, but that didn't pan out too well, but I can at least say I gave it an honest effort. I gave it a real honest effort. I didn't just dip my toe in. I went hardcore with it. So, did that. You can do some self-improvement classes. You can do, there's a lot of free courses that places offer. There's actually, if you go on LinkedIn, there's classes on LinkedIn you can take to help you get better at a thing. If you think that'll help you with your job hunt, if that's what you're looking to do. But yeah, being a stay-at-home dad, it's rewarding. I tell everybody it's the best gig I've ever had because I can be there for my kids when they need me, anytime, day or night. If they are at school and something happens, I can be there in 10 minutes. If they're, if the wife is deployed, which happens to us quite a bit, it seems, then I don't have to take off work to do anything. I'm just there. And that may seem kind of crazy, or seem weird, be like, no, that's not the way that's supposed to work. It is for us, and it's been working out great. Live within your means, and you can do anything, right? As far as like budget stuff goes. But man, I know I've been kind of like stuttering and stammering through this one, And for that, I apologize. But I'm very grateful that we're in a position that I can be a stay-at-home dad and not work and be okay. As much as I enjoy working, as much as I really hope that I'm able to find a job at our next duty location, the idea of being home for my family when they need me is just super rewarding. And once I had that mindset, and once my wife and I talked about it and I started realizing that, it really just changed a lot for the way that I perceive stuff, and it's helped me enjoy being a stay-at-home dad. Because before I was doing it, did I like it? Yeah. But the first time, part of the reason I was having such a hard time is because I wasn't getting anything done, because I would drop the kids off and then I would come home and play Nintendo for like 3-4 hours. And then I'd get up and I would, I'd walk the dog, or I'd do something else that, as much as I love walking the dog, I would do something else that wasn't beneficial to the family as a whole. It was just something for me. And that was honestly creating tension, because, the wife would come home and I wouldn't have unloaded the dishwasher, or there'd still be laundry, and then she was coming home and I was almost like I was expecting her to do it after me not doing jack squat all day. So once I really started looking at it and talking to her, and I realized that there was other stuff I could be doing that would help out the family better than sitting around moping about not having a job, I can tell you this, our quality of life improved a lot, because now whenever they come home, there's not a sink full of dishes. There's usually not laundry. I'm not the greatest at laundry, but I will do it. There's all these little things that we do that now nobody has to think about it because it's done, and it just makes everything better. So, being a stay-at-home dad is definitely not as easy as most people try to make it out to be. As honestly as some people make it seem. I know there's some people that are stay-at-home parents that they just, maybe it's just the outside persona they're putting off, but they make it just seem like everything is great and everybody's got it all together. I can tell you now, I don't. I feel like a lot of times I'm at the hands of a pirate ship that's just part of it's on fire, the other half is sinking. but I'm in the middle of keeping it up. It's a joke. I love my family and I love being a stay-at-home dad. And once you get through your head that, this is mainly if you're new to being a stay-at-home parent, or if you're in a position where you're about to become a stay-at-home parent and you're worried about a lot of stuff, just understand that parenting is hard already. Don't make it harder on yourself than it really needs to be. And have fun with it. Do stuff with your kids. Go on field trips with them. Take your wife dinner, lunch. Surprise her with coffee if you can. Do little things for yourself. Work out, read. I'm like last year I challenged myself to read one self-help book every 3 fiction books that I read, something like that. I remember exactly what I don't remember if it was 2 or 3, because I challenged myself to read more, and I want to say I read like 20 books last year. Which was good for me, because I hadn't read anything just for fun in a long time, because I was getting degrees and stuff. But find stuff to do for yourself. Learn a new hobby. I didn't know how to sew until we got here, and I taught myself how to sew. I had never used a vinyl cutter, and I found a vinyl cutter on Facebook Marketplace, and I started learning how to make stickers and stuff, and doing shirt transfers. My kids love it; they think it's great. I don't make a lot of shirts and stuff for them, but the stuff that we do, matter of fact, one thing I just did for my oldest daughter is, since we're getting ready to move, she wanted me to make. One of her friends that gave her a bunch of bows, and so she had me put their name in this school year on it because of their little friend group. So I was able to do that. She thought it was the greatest thing ever. Learn a hobby. Learn something. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there and learn something new. Learn a new language. Learn sign language. Yeah, do something for yourself, but have fun with it. So, yeah, that's really about it. That's being a stay-at-home parent. Understand that your self-worth is not attached to a paycheck, and sometimes not earning a paycheck, quotes on earning a paycheck, is actually less beneficial for your family than being a stay-at-home. And I know a lot of people out there going right now probably saying, what do you mean, not earning a paycheck is beneficial? Because if it's costing you more to care for your family than your paycheck is bringing you in, then what are you working for? That was with the cost of childcare. Sometimes being a stay-at-home parent actually saves you a lot of money. It did for us in Maryland, but that's neither here nor there. I guess that is here nor there because it's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Anyway, by the time this episode comes out, we'll be back from Ohio. We are going house shopping, and I can't wait. I've been to Ohio once, and it was only for like a day. It was literally like a day. Like I flew in on a Thursday and drove out with my wife the very next day. I did it that way she wouldn't have to drive back to Louisiana by herself. No, we went to Texas. Yeah, we went to Texas. So I did it so she wouldn't have to be by herself for like insanely long drive. But anyway, so by the time this comes out, we will be back from Ohio, and yeah, we'll see what next week's episode is going to be like. So thanks for sticking around. Thanks for listening to me stammer through this one, because this one was a little emotional for me because it made me start thinking about how I was when I was on the phone with my wife and dealing with all this stuff. So a little hard for me to keep my thoughts together there. So I appreciate you sticking with me. As always, thank you for watching the Professional Dependa. Hope you have a great day, and cheers, y'all. Easy would that be for you or your spouse? I know for us, obviously with my wife being the service member, it's not as easy for her just to go, okay, y'all, I got to go. My kid's sick. Now, could she? Yeah, absolutely. They would let her. But I almost guarantee the first thing they would ask her is, well, can your husband do it? Because there's always stuff she's got going on. She's at that level where, and as most of our spouses are, just because there's always stuff going on in the military, but where there's usually something going on that she has to attend to. So they would probably ask her, hey, can your husband do it? Because we've got the thing. And the answer to that's always yes. I mean, my kid, I will go get my kids before I tell my wife, no, I can't do it. And it was that way whenever we were in Alaska and everything else too. Like it was always easier for me to get off work than it was her. But look at it, if you take off work, now you're either having to burn leave that you now can't use for something you want to do because you're having to use it for your kids, or you're having to get somebody to cover for you. There's all that stuff that goes into it. So look at that. Look at how much time and really money you're saving, because if you're taking off for your kids, then that's time you can't take later for yourself or for your family, Yes, I drink too many of those. It is what it is. So look at that. Look at how much it would cost for a chef. I love to cook. Look at how much money you're saving by not going out to eat all the time. I'm not saying don't go out to eat. We go out to eat, honestly more often than we should. But you really got to look at it from all aspects. And that's honestly, my wife was the one that told me that. She was like, look at what you're doing as a stay-at-home dad that we wouldn't be able to do if you were working. So as I've said several times, I'm a power lifter. I love to lift weights. And the ability for me to get my workouts done at home, because I have a garage gym, as I've said before. Weightlifting is one of my things. So that's one of the things that I use for me. As you can see on the video, I've got my bike right here. I can get my cardio done. I can go lift. I can do the dishes. I can cook. All while my kids are at school. rather than if I was working, I would have to either get up at like 4 in the morning to get my workouts done, which yes, I could do it, but who really wants to get up that early just to go work out? I'm not Jocko. So, or having to do it all afterwards and then feel like I'm having to cram everything in to spend time the way I can spend time with my family. We get more family time because I'm able to do the things that I want to do during the day. And then I can go get groceries during the day. I can meal prep. I can cook stuff. I can get dinner going for the night. And a lot of times what we do is on Monday, I'll just cook like all the protein for that week and then just put it in the refrigerator. Then all we gotta do is heat up some vegetables or something. But man, it was a really hard mindset shift. It really, really was. And I didn't think it was going to be, because I'd already been a stay-at-home parent once. And being a stay-at-home parent in Maryland, I think because the kids were so small that it was easier to justify it in my head, and we were only going to be there for such a short time, that it was easier for me to be okay with it there, because we knew going there that I wasn't going to work, because childcare in Maryland was incredibly expensive. Childcare is incredibly expensive everywhere, but it was super high in Maryland. But I think because being here, my intent was not to be a stay-at-home parent. My intent was to work. I enjoy working. So because I had such a hard time finding work, and I've lost count of how many jobs I had applied for and didn't get, and that feeling of what is my self-worth if nobody wants to hire me, that's where my mindset was. And finally, after, again, like if you listen to the last episode, Conversations with Your Spouse, having that hard conversation with my spouse and being open and vulnerable and saying, I don't feel like I'm good enough because nothing that I want to do is happening. And, her, loving me through that and talking to me and being able to go there with me and explain give me the information that I was missing. And by saying that I was missing, like, it was right there staring me in the face, and I just didn't see it. So, being able to have that conversation about and trusting her enough to go there, and understanding that what I was doing as a stay-at-home dad, what I'm still doing as a stay-at-home dad, is valuable. And my self-worth isn't necessarily attached to a paycheck, which is great because I've been unemployed ever since I got laid off from my last job. Through no fault of my own, I was a contractor on base, and the contract went away. So it's not like I was a screw up and got laid off. Like, we all got laid off. But understanding that my self-worth isn't attached to a paycheck. Which, again, for a lot of guys or a lot of like hard-hitting ladies, that's a tough mindset to get through, because a lot of us like being in that field. Like, we like being involved and getting, being in the mix and just being decision makers. So, my wife basically had to tell me that I'm still doing all that stuff. I'm just doing it from the aspect of being a stay-at-home dad. And that was really hard, man. I know I said it was really hard, but I'm really trying to tell you that was probably the hardest mindset shift I have ever had to have, because, again, I've got 2 master's degrees. One of them is from Georgetown University, Hoya Saxa. If you had ever told me that, a kid that, made it out of high school, I don't remember what my GPA was, but it wasn't great. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great. And then my bachelor's degree, whenever people ask me what my GPA was in college for undergrad, I just say I went to college. I enjoyed my college experience. Let me put it that way. I enjoyed especially my freshman year. I really just enjoyed the college experience. But, I mean, if you told me that guy would have gone on to have like a 3.7 from Georgetown, I'd have laughed at you. and a 3.9 for my first master's degree from Northwestern State. I mean, to being a stay-at-home dad, usually people with advanced degrees do advanced work, and because of one of the aspects of being a military spouse is, if I find a job in Oregon, I can't just pick up and move. I mean, I absolutely could. I could pick up and go, but I'm leaving my family, and that's not what I want to do at all. So that's kind of one of the downsides to getting a lot of highly specialized education is sometimes those career opportunities aren't where you are. If we were in the Virginia, D.C. area, I'd probably be fine because every alphabet agency in the world is located there. But, that's one of the things that's tough as a military spouse. And because I had done all the things that the military community tells you as a spouse that you need to do to make sure you can be employed or to help you be employed, fill out the spouse preference paper or the preferred placement program paperwork, because now it's on you as the spouse to fill out that paperwork instead of being able to just click a button and upload some orders, and now HR takes care of it. Now it's all on the spouse, which honestly is probably better. But you do all the things they tell you to do that will help you get employed, and whenever you go 18 months without a job, it really wreaks havoc on you. At least it did me. But that's what I like about being a stay-at-home dad now. And don't get me wrong, I'm still looking for work, but I've had a mindset, but going through it with my wife and having that mindset shift of it's okay to not be working. One of the things they tell you as a spouse is, well, go volunteer. Yeah. I've done some things at my kid's school. I have, we volunteer, as a family at the animal shelter, which is super rewarding.